My name is Jonathan Carnes. I'm the Director of Laboratory Operations at NextGen MDX. We are a genetic carrier screening company in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And we deal on a day-to-day basis with helping patients understand what genetic conditions that they carry, and as a result, if they are to have kids with their partner, what would the chances be of them having a child with one of the diseases that they carry. A genetic carrier is somebody who carries a disease but doesn't suffer from the disease. They do have the risk of passing it on to their children, though. One of the day-to-day questions that we can often get in the laboratory has to deal with a doctor who's trying to figure out what is wrong with a patient and what is the underlying genetic cause for whatever their condition is. We actually got contacted by a doctor who had a patient who was having shortness of breath, difficulty exercising, and the physician had already decided to look at the patient's blood under a microscope. When he observed the blood, he noticed that a number of their red blood cells were lysing, and that means that the red blood cells are breaking open. Red blood cells are what carry the oxygen to the different parts of our body, and so the broken red blood cells are not carrying oxygen the way they need to, and hence the patient is feeling out of breath because they're not getting enough oxygen to all of the different parts of their body. The doctor asked us to look at the patient's DNA and try and figure out if there is a genetic condition that could cause this effect on the red blood cells. As a result, we told the physician that we could look at the red blood cells and try and figure out if there is a gene present in the patient's DNA that could cause that red blood cell condition to occur. How would you solve this problem? We solved this problem by looking at PubMed Central, which is an online repository of a number of different medical publications that can cause, that allow us to look at the different causes of diseases that have been discovered by other researchers. We started to do some research on different genes that could cause red blood cells to lyse, and one of the genes that we ran across was called G6PD. Changes in G6PD, mutations in G6PD, which are changes to the genetic code, can cause the red blood cells to lyse when a patient's exposed to certain foods and to certain drugs. We found that this patient, when we looked at their G6PD gene, had a mutation that can cause those red blood cells to lyse, and we were able to share that with the physician, and the physician was able to counsel the patient to avoid certain foods, and then the physician was able to put into the patient's record that the drugs that can also interact with G6PD and cause those red blood cells to lyse should be avoided in that patient's care. Once the patient was aware of these things, they were able to avoid those foods, and physicians were able to avoid prescribing any of those drugs, and they were able to get better, and the condition went away as their body slowly replaced those red blood cells that had been lysed.